How's it going? It's a Thursday. That means it's a gear talk. I know, I haven't done one in a month. I know, crazy. I'm actually here doing it for once. I know, crazy. It just so happens I'm doing it when I'm short on videos for while I'm gone and on a trip, and it just so happens it's going up. Crazy that I'm doing this video in one shot, pretty much talking about a character without doing any editing later on, so I'm not going to be looking at notes. In fact, I don't even have notes this time. Crazy that I'm pretty much talking about a character that died before the first game even came out, so it's pretty easy to talk about. And as you can see, the jacket's not on. Yeah, a lot of things are already packed away, so I'm trying to get a good camera angle here, so I might be a little squished down for this one. We're talking about Carlos today. Carlos Santiago, getting right into it. The older brother of Dom, actually, and surprisingly, it's hard to say as of, the end of the Gears of War franchise, or where we are even right now, end of the trilogy, you could say Marcus's best friend ever. It's hard to say because if you look at it, you have pretty much JD, James, Dominic Santiago, Dom. Dom is the younger brother of Carlos. You don't see anyone named Carlos. You barely see any of Carlos ever in any Gears of War in general. He's mentioned in 5. He has his name up on the wall of the Remembered. In 3, he's on a plaque of the 5 earners of the Embry Star because he earned one, I believe, in his death. He ended up getting a star because the Embry Star recipients were, I believe, Victor Hoffman, Dominic Santiago, Marcus Fenix, Bernadette Mataki, and Carlos Santiago because of his sacrifice in order to hold off the UIR. Now, let's start off talking about Carlos in his early days. We're just going to jump right into this one. So, when it comes to Carlos and Dom, they're obviously brothers, 2 years apart, and they originally went to school, like any kid would, but it just so happened at one point there was a kid who transferred into the school by the name of Marcus Fenix. Good old 11-year-old Marcus met 11-year-old Carlos and 9-year-old Dom. Now, Marcus moved in. He didn't move in. He was already living with his father. He was just transferred from private schooling into a public school. Now, he was new. He didn't understand a lot. He was a very quiet kid, very meek. It was stated in the books, too, very small and scrawny. He was a small kid. But it was also stated that, he was like the Marcus now. He kept to himself. He kept quiet. He didn't cause a scene that much. So he did carry traits from when he was a child. And Carlos noticed him. When it came to a lunch period for the first day that they were introduced to one another later on in that day, everyone would just watch Marcus. No one sat with him or anything, and they just looked on at Marcus. It was more like, hey, he's the rich kid. He's going to be snobby. He's going to be snooty. He's going to be like one of those like upper crust white collar kids you see. But Marcus wasn't like that. He kept to himself. And as we learn later, Marcus is Marcus. He's never been like that. And honestly, Carlos got to the point where he was tired of it all, and he got up, he went over, sat down right next to him, and said, hey, how's it going? I'm Carlos. And it was funny how he opened it all. He said, what's over that wall at your house, pretty much? That was the opening line. It wasn't, how's the day going? What exactly goes on at your house was his first question he gave to Marcus. And honestly, an 11-year-old boy, how else are you really going to open up that conversation? And Marcus being meek and everything, I don't exactly remember how he answered. It's been a while since I read the Asfield Fields book. But, he replied, they started talking, they were okay with each other, and Marcus ended up getting in a fight later on because it was a bunch of kids who felt he was privileged and everything, and honestly, Carlos jumped in at that point to fight with him, so it ended up as a fair fight finally, and they fought. Marcus, again, was a small kid. Carlos came in and backed him up, and that's truly when they became friends. And they were the type of friends who would go around, to one another's house. They were like normal friends as children. But later on, it ends up that Marcus loses his mother. And we end up learning later on from the books, he loses his mother to the Locust because she accidentally goes into some tunnels in the Hollow she shouldn't, and she ends up getting killed. But no one relays that information to Marcus. He has no clue how his mom's dead. At that point, his dad hasn't been told. He just says, your mom's dead. No explanation. She just died. Marcus doesn't know that she was in the Hollows and got killed. He has no clue. And it came to that point with Carlos and Dom when they saw this. Dom asked, well, what do we do about this? It's like he just lost his mom. And that honestly is when Carlos sat down, he looked at it, and he made the decision he's our brother now. Marcus is going to be one of us. He's going to be a Santiago. We're going to treat him like he's our brother. He wasn't even born to our family. You know, we barely know Adam Fenix that well. You know, obviously they know each other because he lets them come to their house, obviously. But it's like he's going to be a brother to us from here on out. His problems are our problems. We're going to be there for him no matter what happens, like brothers should. Like Santiago's always will. He's one of us. And that really is where he became a part of the family. You know, he'd go over, eat dinners at their house, treated as a brother and a son. You know, it was always like that. You know, he was treated like an older brother by Dom. It was always like that. And then him and Carlos ended up hitting 18, and they joined the military. They joined the COG. Now, the thing is that Dom is younger by 2 years, and Carlos was always adamant about joining. And I believe that after a while talking with Marcus and everything, Marcus was like, yeah, I'm going to join you too. We're brothers. We'll be brothers in arms. Let's do this. So it came to the point where Dom was like, well, I want to join too, but I'm too young. And also, he had his own stuff going on with Maria. At this point, I believe, like, Maria was pregnant. They were 16, still in high school. Things were going on with that. But he tells Dom, listen, join 2 years after we do. We'll be there. We're already going to be in the military. We'll be older than you, but we're still going to be, like, soldiers. We'll still be brothers in arms. And you can just join in. We'll all be a part. We'll all be in this together. And that's pretty much the pact they made. 2 years after we join, you join, and we'll all be in the COG together. And, hey, that honestly, it kind of happened. I mean, Dom got in a little earlier because of the whole I'm dropping out of school because of my pregnant girlfriend that's also 16 kind of situation. Long story. That'll be for another day when we get to a Dom video. And that's a long ways down since how long that video is going to be. But that's what happened. They all joined, and they ended up in the military. Now, it went a little differently because Dom went to become a commando while Carlos and Marcus, I was about to say Dom, he's not with his brother, they just joined pretty much the military, you know. Think of like the commandos as like the Marines. Dom became a Marine pretty much. And then you pretty much have the 26th RTI is where Carlos and Marcus went. I keep wanting to call Marcus Dom for some reason. Now, the thing you got to remember about the 26th is that's where, like, some of the most, like, I don't know, most war-heavy, well-known veteran gears are. Definitely the most spoken about soldiers in the entire military. Helena Stroud's there. Ty is a part of that. I believe at a point Hoffman was, but I'm not too sure. He might not have been. But, like, Bernie was a part of the 26th, I believe. You had a lot of people. I mean, and they just joined into that. Like, the 26th are known for being, like, complete badasses in the military. If one's to die, another's taking their place. Like, they're a hard line to go through for the 26th. But they joined, and they were originally scheduled when they were dropped off to Dushin, which if you watch my Dushin video, I talk about that. Now, I think I said Dushin or Dushin, you can call it either or, I believe, in that video, but I did do a video on that talking about what happened, talking about Marcus, and talking about Carlos, what was going on there. Quinn, I think Maxon or Mason was his name. I'm probably wrong, but it's one of those two, but, you know, that was where they first got their experience in war. That's where they were first dropped off to learn. That's where they were brought. And honestly, it was an eye-opening experience for them because they experienced like their allies, brothers in arms, dying in front of them. They both made it out in the end, but that was their eye-opener to war. And that's where they first started fighting. That's where everything went down. Like I said, I would go into more detail, but I did make a video all about that particular area for the geography stuff of Sarah. Just watch that and you'll get the full story of what happened with them. I promise, it's a good watch. Now, continuing on. Once things finished off there, we don't really get that much history in between, but we do know later on they end up at Asfio Fields. And I know a lot of people will call it Ashfo now and then. It's Asfio Fields. Look at how it is. Listen to the first Gears of War game. Anthony calls it Asfio Fields. That's what it is. It's Asfio Fields. It's not Ashfo Fields. It's Asfio Fields. I might be wrong. I don't know. The game itself said that for Gears 1. That's how it's spelled. I'm going to call it Asfio Fields. Now, continuing on, they end up going there. Now, obviously, they're going through training and everything beforehand. They got that, and Dom was getting it too. Bernie ended up training him. But, you know, the commandos are going to be sent in behind enemy lines pretty much to infiltrate and secure the Hammer of Dom project blueprints pretty much for Operation Leveler. And the 26th is being sent in pretty much as decoys. They're going to make them think that this major battle is going on somewhere, and all their forces are going to be driven over there in order to pretty much fight them off, not knowing that the commandos went behind enemy lines to go wrangle up a decent amount of scientists, take the hammer, and get out. Now, things didn't really go as planned later on. We end up learning on the commando side of things, but things also don't go too well over on the 26th side of things, because it turns out the UIR was extremely heavily prepared for something like this to happen, apparently. They're busting out tanks, they've got rockets flying, they've got a decent amount of soldiers everywhere, and it really is just a battle. It's a swampy area, it's a mucky area, there's a bridge here and there. But it's not a fun place to fight. Like, Ty was there, Bernie was there. A lot of people were there holding off pretty much the front line of that battle. The front line was mostly the commandos. That was their main focus, getting them in. But they had a line of soldiers in the back pretty much as decoys, and also to draw off fire while the commandos did their thing. So, while everything was going on, the battle was getting a lot more intense than people thought. People were getting picked off. People were being held down. You know, a lot of people being, suppressive fire. They were pretty much stuck in trenches or little ditches. I don't remember which it was. I think it might have been trenches, but then again, that was on their side, and they weren't expecting a frontal battle to come through on their end. But it was happening, and it came to the point where, like, they lost good soldiers. I know they lost a decent standing person. It was like Helena Stroud's assistant. I can't remember his name for the life of me. I do want to make a video on him, though, because there are a few things later on I want to talk about in a video for him. He's an interesting character. Helena Stroud, she died there. Who else ended up going? We know that we know a certain character we're going to be getting to that this video is about, Carlos. He ended up going, but like a lot of people ended up dying there. And like I just said a few seconds ago, Carlos was one of them. But Carlos didn't go right away. It was never a situation where Carlos, he went out with a quick shot like Anthony in the first game. No, his death was pretty much, he originally was running across the battlefield to try and draw fire off, and he ended up getting a shot right in the gut. It took him down. He was bleeding out. He was in pain. He couldn't make it. And that really ticked off Marcus at that point. And the problem is that Marcus really cares about getting everyone out, or at least his friends being safe. That's always been something he cares about. So he's seeing in his mind, his brother, his best friend of all time, just got gut-shotted. Marcus loses it. He's getting closer and closer, trying to get to him. And the problem is that he knows Marcus is going to die. It's been shown in the comics, Marcus isn't one of the main characters in a series where just because he's the main character, he's safe. It's been shown that's not the case. He is still alive right now, but it's not because, like, I can do stupid things and I'll be fine because I'm the main character. It's never been like that. He's almost died in the comics. He's almost died in the game when he got potted. He almost did die. Everyone thought he was dead for a decent amount of time. Marcus isn't safe from that. It's shown in the book. If he would have kept trying to get to Carlos, chances are he would have done something reckless and got shot and killed. So Carlos knows this. Carlos knows what's going to happen if Marcus is going to try and get up to him. He already knows the situation. And Bernie at that point, being a decent veteran gear at that point, and also friends with Helena, she just saw her best friend explode. If I ever make a Helena video, trust me, that'll be in it. And Anya was on comms for the first time ever at that point, listening to her mother's final words, and then also listening to her mom die. And Bernie is like an aunt figure to, pretty much, Anya. So she's got to already deal with the Anya situation. Helena, her pretty much best friend and sister-in-arms, just exploded. And now you have one of the trainees you helped out years ago, is now lying there bleeding out on the side of enemy lines. And she really does come to the conclusion, like, listen, he's in pain. He's not going to make it. Everyone already knows at this point, even Carlos, he ain't going to make it. So she's a skilled marksman. She has a sniper rifle with her. She lines up for his head because she sees the situation. She's got it lined up to watch over everything, and she thinks, I can end it right now. I can shoot him in the head. I can just drop him. He'll be dead. It'll be quick and painless for him. It'll be done. He will be dead. He Marcus isn't going to try anything anymore. Although knowing Marcus, he'd probably still try and get over there to get his corpse back over so he could bring home his corpse. Obviously, knowing Marcus, he would do that. But she had the plan of Bernie sat there I can end them right now. I can make this a lot softer for everyone. If Marcus has to hate me for killing his brother, let him hate me. But Marcus is still going to be alive. We all have a chance of getting out of here because everyone knows Marcus is a decent soldier at this point. He's the son of Adam Phoenix. They know that he's getting out of there. Well, they know that he's going to help them get out of there. If he dies, that's going to be a little bit more tricky. But she sits there I'm so sorry. I have to do this. And at the exact same time she's thinking about this, Carlos sees Marcus, and he knows Marcus ain't going to stop. So while Bernie's aiming up on him, he pulls out a grenade. He has a grenade, and he's pretty much planning on, for lack of a better term, kamikazing himself and taking himself out pretty much because he was on a bridge at this point of being when he got shot. And he knows that enemies are coming. And he knows that if they get across the bridge, that's an easy access point to take everyone out for the 26th. He knows this. Everyone kind of has the assumption to get rid of the bridge, but Carlos is sitting there I have a means to get rid of this. I have a means to get rid of this bridge, take away an advantage they have, and give my guys, my friends, my brother a chance. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to just hurl this to the side and crawl my way away. It's not going to happen. I think Bernie at that point, I think she saw the grenade, but she wasn't aware of what he was going to do. So it really does come down to the decision at the end of what's really going to happen. And Carlos is the one who makes the final decision in the end. He busts out the grenade and he blows himself up. There are bits of him that go places, and trust me, it's talked about because later on Marcus has to go and pick up those bits. Bernie has her finger on the trigger ready to blow, and he explodes before that even happens. The bridge is gone. Marcus goes into a fury at this point. His emotions are all over the place. At one point, he abducts the enemy tank and starts driving that around and shooting things. That just gets nuts on its own. But Carlos dies at this point. He's gone. And I remember the first time I read the book. The first time I read Asfield Fields was a long time ago, the very beginning. I dropped it and picked it up years later to finish it. The first chapter talks about a sniper, a mysterious person that helped them out and saved them. Then you get a flashback involving Carlos. So I always assumed, Carlos is still alive somehow. There's got to be a reason that Carlos is still here. Something happened. You read the book, you understand Carlos ain't coming back. So Carlos, after he does that and after the battle keeps going, the commandos get everyone out on their end and they fight off the wave and they're able to get out of there. But Marcus has to take the time to pick up what's left of his brother. And it's a really sad scene because after he picks it up, they don't go into detail about him just going around look, here's his leg. I'm going to put that in a bag because he does carry what's left of Carlos pretty much in a bag. That's definitely what happens. They get onto the ship pretty much for extraction and where they were using the decoy ships originally to make it look like an attack. And he's sitting there crying over what's left of his brother in his arms, just sitting there and weeping. And this is Marcus. It doesn't happen often where he's showing emotion like this heavy, but he's openly bawling and in tears about his brother. And then Dom gets on the ship because they have to extract the ship too. And he doesn't know what's going on until it's told to him what happens. And it's really sad for Dom because he gets told this. At the same time, he's told that his daughter, I believe Sylvia is his daughter's name, she was born the same night that his brother died. So he was a mix of emotions. Marcus was just in tears. Bernie was still awestruck at what happened. She was literally about to kill him. He exploded. She's like, this went a bunch of ways it shouldn't have tonight. And that was the end of Carlos's main story and everything. And I keep saying the sad part for a lot of things, but this is a thing in the books that's carried for a while. Dom's never told how he died. Dom was never told for 14 years that his brother straight up blew up on a bridge to take out the enemy pretty much connection to their soldiers because he was trying to run across, take it out, but he got gut shot and ended up on the bridge. It was never told to him that that happened. He always imagined his brother went out a heroic death. Which in a way it was. His self-sacrifice really was to keep Marcus at bay and to take out the bridge, but you know, he really did sit there and think, man, my brother must have done something crazy to like really go down. It's my older brother. But after so much prodding to Bernie, because he knew Bernie knew, because Bernie was there. He knows Marcus knows, but Marcus won't tell him, because Marcus made a pact with Bernie. We're never going to tell Dom what happened. He does not need to know his brother just blew himself up on a bridge. He doesn't need to know what happened to his brother, why he was just chunks. He doesn't need to know that. He just needs to know your brother died. He died heroically. He kept us alive. He was a great man. That's all he wanted Dom to know. And Dom does learn, because Bernie does tell him. And I think when Bernie tells him, that is also when we get the flashback that tells us what happened to him. And it really is just... It's sad, because he thought his brother went out in a heroic way, this way like guns blazing going out, and something must have happened to him. He was a heroic soldier that did all this. Like, no, he made a mistake. He goofed. He tried doing something reckless. He got caught for his mistakes with it, getting shot. And then, fixing his own mistake, he blew himself up with his own grenade and blew up a bridge with himself. It wasn't like he saw it as like a horrible thing his brother did. So my camera died in the middle of that, as you can probably guess. But, I mean, I've already been running this one pretty long. I took a look at how much time was actually going. And I'm like, over 20 minutes is pretty long to be talking about Carlos. But I don't know. I can make it as long as a conversation I need for Carlos, because he's a really demanded character. And finishing up what I was saying pretty much with Dom, how he saw him. Instead of seeing as this like huge hero that he had in his mind, he mostly saw his brother as like, that's my brother. It sounds like what he would do. It's like, and he started missing the times he had with his brother, and that was really, it was impactful, you know, and that was really the last we ever got of, like, Carlos. We get Easter eggs now and then, and we see him now and then making appearances or cameos and things, like comics or, like, people mentioning Carlos in books, but end of the day, like, that's all we got from Carlos, and it's really sad, because I've always wanted Carlos to get in the games. A lot of people want Carlos. Carlos was an amazing, like, character in the books. He was Marcus's best friend, the older brother of Dom. This guy's got hype already for being a character. Older brother of Dom, best friend of Marcus, fought alongside with him, 26th RTI, you know, Embry Star. This is a character that has hype, build-up, a background that we know about that would be great to see. The first time we ever saw the guy was the cover of the Asfio Fields book. That was the only time we saw him at the time, and he looked remarkably like Dom when we saw it. But I am going too long. Like I said, the video already cut out at one point because I ran out of memory on this thing. I just want to thank you guys for watching then. Tell me what you think of Carlos in the comments. Carlos... He's like a low-key favorite of mine, you know? Like, if I had to name minor characters that I was a huge fan of, Carlos was one of them. I love Carlos, as you can tell. It's a 23-minute video. Well, it might be 23. It's definitely over 20, but I love me some Carlos. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm still gone for now. I will be back soon, I swear. I hope this tides you over. I do have a lot more Gear Talks I want to do. I noticed that the #1 video currently right now on the channel is the Swarm vs. Locust video, and it's getting more and more views as it gets bigger. I thank you guys extremely for that. That was a fun video to work on. I want to do more like that with the Versus series. I might be touching on that again soon. If I get to Gear Talks again, the holiday season for fourth quarter, first quarter has been busy. March will be nice. February, I got to catch up on a lot of things. I'm rambling. It's been a long, rambling episode. Thank you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. We have merchandise. There's a Patreon I would love you guys to take a look at. You guys have an amazing day. See you guys next time.